a lot of families around Plymouth are struggling to make ends meet. And I know you were saying about getting more people through the gates, more families, more children through the gates. This might sound daft, but as a family or as a father, I noticed that 50 pence increase in 4 pints of milk. It might sound stupid, but where I'm coming from is, can we scrap the matchday ticket price increase? That's the added £2 or the added pound extra to get more fans in.
First of all, worrying about the price of milk is not at all stupid. That's please don't think
it's
that
just those little things where
please don't
people,
think that anybody at Argyle is not sympathetic to people who are struggling to make ends meet. We are.
Yeah.
We've done a few things this year already. You know, we've done the £10 for a season ticket for the under 8s if they're accompanied by an adult. I would say we have to plan. You know, that means we have to know how many stewards we're going to need. We're going to have to know, how many pasties Ginsters are going to have to sell us.
Yeah.
We're going to, we have to make plans, and we have to know roughly what the crowd's going to be.
I think
So the point is, it's not a match day increase. We actually give people a discount for buying in advance. So the question is, I guess it's a kind of broader question. It's how can we help make Argyle more affordable? And I think that's something that we need to think about in terms of our concessions and in terms of our ticket prices. So we tried hard with tiering. I will say that relative to other clubs in Division 2 or in League 2, League 1, we think we're about average, don't we? We're neither, and we do already have a lot of concessions. The problem is, we're worried about the price of milk too. We're losing money.
Yeah.
And we're constantly driving to give value for money. We've experimented with a few things. I don't know, what else can we do?
Well, I think it's getting what's perceived to be value for money too, as well. I think we will always look to try and put concessions on, or further concessions to people that need that, and we should always look at that. We also need to make sure that driving lots of numbers as well has either a short-term benefit or a great long-term benefit. And there are a couple of clubs who've tried perhaps to discount very vigorously, which hasn't helped their long-term sustainability of the club. So it's really about getting balance to that. And when we did some of the fan surveys, so we just had one fan survey that's gone out, obviously ticket prices is one theme that does come out in there. But when you ask the other question too about what that price should be, the price that we've got is actually pretty much on what people see to be the value for money. So I'm not saying that isn't individually, that can still not be difficult, because it can, and we should always look at how do we make sure that all fans have got the ability to come and review that. But I also think we've got to think about it not on the wider piece, as Simon has just said, about how do we get the balance right between ensuring that the club is sustainable for the long term. We're not going to put prices up so that they're not affordable, but equally we can't make the point where it's not at all, or where it disadvantages everybody. And having what we do want, which is a team that's going to be competitive, given the reliance we have at the moment on that portion of income, and where people get value for money too.
Can I just also add one thing? The competition for you as well is basically you've got so much in and around Plymouth, where you've got West Hoe, families will go to West Hoe for the afternoon, or Mount Edgecombe, or Dartmoor, and it is very difficult for you. I can understand that.
I agree totally, because we got to think not just about it being a football a game. It's a family experience that people have choices. So that choice has to be one which is there for all the family, and which people feel that when they do spend their hard-earned money, that they've got value for that, and they won't go to the park that day because actually they want to come to Argyle because that's better for everyone. that's what we got to do.
Yeah, I think the overall goal is that people will come here earlier and stay later, and therefore they'll be spreading their spending over more hours. So your value per hour will go up, and I think it will also increase the value you're getting. I was telling Andrew, and I think I mentioned this at the Paxton meeting. I was chatting to a mate of mine who goes 3 generations go to watch Tottenham as a season ticket holder, and I was having lunch with him in London 6 weeks ago, and I asked him what the new stadium was like. And he just didn't stop talking for 5 or 6 minutes. But of that 5 or 6 minutes, about 30 seconds was about what a great building it was. And the rest of the time was how it's just so much more fun going there now. So, he now goes there for an extra 3 or 4 hours to kind of hang out with other fans, to listen to the music, to stick around afterwards. So the money he's spending on watching football is now spread over entertainment for the whole day, and I think that's what we can do at very low cost. Again, lots of people in this room went to Liverpool in 2017, 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and you say to people the experience at Liverpool was just fantastic as a away fan, and people will say, well, Liverpool, they're so rich, they've got all that money. 10 years ago they weren't very rich, they were almost bust. But also, the things that really made an impact don't actually cost much money. It's about people being friendly. It's about having, somebody playing their ukulele in the corner. It's really about providing fairly cheap entertainment. And we could actually sell spots to people who could be busking. So, the whole atmosphere, I hope, will just be more fun. And I hope it won't cost much more money. It will certainly last longer throughout the day. Sorry, I promised you.
In the checker trade, you want to get more people come to Hyde Park. Is that going to lose a lot of money when you're playing in that tournament? The checker trade.
Obviously, this is a question about the checker trade and losing money. So, for people at the back who might not have heard, I don't know. Obviously, every game that we have, the more people we can get in, the better it's going to be, because we have to do all the things that Simon's described. We've got to steward it. We've got to put the heat, light, power on. We've got to have all the concessions open, etc. So, it does, for those lower attendances, it is sometimes quite challenging. So we've got to do our very best to A, get the right price, and then B, trying to attract people to come. So we don't lose money, but it's one where we have to really make sure that we get as many people in as we possibly can to do that. And I think that's a really good opportunity. Those types of games are really good opportunities to focus on kids and people who might not normally be able to come because they're going to the park or something at the weekend and doing something else. So I think it's that type of thing that we have to focus on as well.
Just to follow up on the question that the gentleman raised about affordability, perhaps for people who have obviously haven't got the income that some other people have. I know there's obviously discounts for obviously senior citizens, etc., which is obviously welcomed by most. I'm also conscious there's probably a lot of senior citizens, and I'm not trying to say they're all rich, but obviously some families are obviously a lot worse off than. Is there anything that the EFL themselves are doing to try and encourage families back? Is there any initiatives in that would potentially help? So rather than just the clubs trying to get families in, is it not beneficial that the EFL look at ways of just trying to help people afford this?
The EFL has a programme of assessing clubs for family friendliness, and they send a couple of what do you call people who assessors. So I was thinking Secret Santas, but that's the wrong word. They send assessors round on an anonymous basis, and they kind of assess how we do. Argyle actually got a gold award in the EFL this year. So they encourage the clubs without doing, and they kind of recognise the clubs for success, but they don't do anything themselves that I can think of. And Andrew couldn't think of anything, which is why I handed the microphone to me.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
I'm sorry, just to finish, I prefer the EFL not to. I mean, I'm a great believer in letting people do what they want. It's up to us to make it succeed, and if other clubs don't succeed, I'm kind of happy about that. You know, making this a family-friendly place will make Argyle stand out relative to other clubs. And if we're all doing a brilliant job, then frankly, we'll just have to. The good thing is we'd have to continue upping our game. I prefer the EFL to, let clubs do what they want to do.
Okay.
I've got a question here sent in by somebody asking about the Pioneer packages. They're asking whether the membership fee, which is applicable this year, is applicable in future years, or whether it's a one-off fee this year because we're halfway through a season.
So this is just for everyone here, that's the top tier of our hospitality new offering in the Grandstand. We still have a few left, I'll get that in. But there is a membership fee for joining, and it is a one-off fee. So anybody that does join, similar to lots of memberships there may be for that type of arrangement, it is a one-off fee. So anybody joining at a later date will also have to pay that for what is a great package, which if you look at it over the whole season, if that's what you do want, is great value for money. I mean, I know we've been talking about affordability, so I'm not going to break it down to the price because it seems like a bit of a wrong answer after having just answered the one before, but for people who do want that kind of offering, it is really great value.
I know there was talk about the public address system being upgraded, and when will that actually be in place? And if I could ask another question, wouldn't it be a good idea now the Mayfair stand is more or less finished, that the away supporters are put on that side rather than behind the goal? Because I always feel in the very important matches when we're playing the top teams, although a few of them have gone at the league this year, there is a bit of an advantage for them when they get all their supporters behind the goal that Argyle or the other team's attacking.
Great question. So on the first one, we are upgrading the entertainment system. So there's three parts to that. Actually, we need to do three parts. One is the safety system. The second part is the entertainment system that we'll need within the new grandstand itself for being able to do the conferences and everything else. And the third part is the wider entertainment system, which I know it's a bit mixed in the ground at the moment. Didn't hear that because the entertainment system's not very good. And the third part is the entertainment system around the whole of the ground. All three are going to be upgraded for the beginning of the season. So you'll be very pleased to know that. And the second part, that's interesting because we were thinking about that, well, looking at that yesterday because, and this is, again, looking at where the away end is and the home ends are, and I think, for those of you who might remember, I think we have swapped before, haven't we? I think we have had home and away ends in different places in the stadium before, but anyway, I think there's a couple of things here. We've obviously got the home dressing room now coming out to the what is now the away end, and the other dynamic that we have is that we're quite restricted in, if we do have a big cup game, then the numbers of away fans that we can have and be able to have in there. But equally on the other side, where we haven't got the demarcation in the right place so that we could have 50 fans taking up quite a lot of room where Argyle fans could have. And the better arrangement might well be to have it at the other end. So one of the things we're looking at is to, and it's only consideration, is to the feasibility of that. There may be costs involved in that, don't know, but that then comes back into, that might be one of the things from a long-term perspective. If we do invest in things like that, then when we do have monies coming into the club over and above those that we've been able to make sure that the club is sustainable, then that would be a consideration for us to be able to do that. So both of those things, one is definitely solved and the other one we're looking at.
While you're on the subject of that, why when the culture fans come down, we've got a whole section blank.
Yeah.
And you watch Liverpool, watch any of the Premiership results, and we've got a line of security down.
Yeah, so no, yeah. So I probably didn't explain it very well. So the question was here was for the away fans, we've got a whole section that's blank between between the away fans and the home fans. Well, first of all, we have to have a segregation area between the two. But secondly, it's where your turnstiles are located for home and away, and where the facilities are as well. So, and I can give an example. At Liverpool, you've got the ability to have either, in their case, a segmentation for 500 away fans, 1,000 or 1,500. Argyle, we don't have the ability to be able to separate that in that type of way, and so the idea would be is if we flipped it, we might be able to do it in a way where you could have a smaller area for lesser fans coming, but be able to expand it for different amounts that would come. So at the moment we're restricted in being able to do that.
Evening, Simon. Basically, there was speculation on social media about possibly an Argyle third kit coming up, because of the fact at the moment Argyle have got the home one, which I'm wearing tonight, and one of the other is wearing the away one, but the away shirt would probably clash with one of the games later on this season, which is away at Forest Green Rovers. Will there be a chance for third kits? And if so, any details or when it might be released?
Well, so we're not doing the big reveal tonight, but there is a third kit that is coming. It's a limited edition one, and we'll be doing. So all I'll say is we're doing the photo shoot for that for next week. So it won't be long after that when it does come out. And although obviously I have green in it, no surprises there. It is quite different to the other two, so and I think will appeal to a lot of different people as well. So yes, we have got another one coming very soon.
Extra large, please.
Gentleman mentioned speculation on social media. We've had a couple of questions about media. One from Tom Bowden. How do you feel about the way social media is being run, especially with the needless blocking of fans on Twitter when most are just giving their opinions?
Sorry, my blood pressure has just gone up about 35 points. Over the last couple of months, I've had about 8 messages, usually on Facebook, from people saying, "Hey Simon, I've been needlessly blocked by @only one Argyle. Please could you investigate and get me unblocked?" And, I'd say, sure. At first I go to Rick, and this guy says he's been needlessly blocked. And Rick would send me a screenshot of some foul abuse that he'd given, often to Rick himself. And I go back and say, stop wasting my time. And one particularly foul one has become a bit of a meme on Twitter, I believe. I think Rick, every time I've investigated, Rick has blocked people who deserve to be blocked. It's been for foul abuse, or it's been for, going counter to our requests not to publicise things that we're trying to keep, secret for a while, and control the release of information for our fans, and frankly to help drive hits towards our own club media channels for which we get paid. So people who go around posting pictures of new signings before we post them ourselves cost the club money. And if we find out that they're doing it, we block them. So far. Some of these people, frankly, I would block for life. I think we're a bit over generous. We have a social media policy. I've stopped referring them. I thought I'd stopped. I did one today, and again, the guy ended up, being foul. Our social media policy. Actually, it's not our social media policy. It's our club policy. We have a vision. We have values. One of those values is respect, and as a sub-part of that, we will not tolerate abuse of our staff. So, I don't care, I don't care what Rick's done. If you are abusive of him, we won't tolerate it. And I think you'll see us being less tolerant. You'll see us being less tolerant, at Home Park, for example. Certainly on social media, I see no reason why we should put up with people being abusive. If they want to engage with us, we're about as open as a club can be. My email address is chairman@pafc.co.uk. I check it 3 or 4 times a week. I answer every email from every fan who sends stuff in. We have fan forums. I write a letter to everybody. We're trying very, very hard to be inclusive. So people who abuse that are going to get shut out. And I'm absolutely unapologetic about it. Sorry.
While we're talking about media, there was a question came in about iFollow, and somebody who, like you, lives out of the country for a lot of the time. As such, watching games on iFollow has been a godsend, says Nick Fowler. What are the financial implications of iFollow for Argyle, and do you monitor the viewing figures?
I think you should answer that.
Rick asked the question.
I thought you were going to, but never mind. Yes, we do monitor the viewing figures. We monitor subscription figures more than the viewing figures, and we get a return from the EFL on our digital revenues every year, and every season, and we've just had one for this season, which is am I allowed to say how much? Or it's just north of £120,000 a season, which is valuable income. Goes on Paul's bottom line, and everything you saw earlier on. It's important. And the good news is that the board have looked at this, and they say it's a very important part of the future for Argyle, not only for the revenue but also for the service it provides, because it means that a lot of fans, especially abroad, can get to watch matches streamed live most weeks of the year. I think they're saying minimum of 42 games next season. And my own personal view is, and it is only my own personal view, that as time goes on, it will probably open up more to people in this country. And very, very soon football clubs will be able to stream their own matches live anywhere in the world. That's not happened yet. There are certain games that fall under UEFA restrictions that we can broadcast live. We did a few last season. We're going to do a few more this season. And because the board recognises how important it is to the club, they very kindly allow some capital expenditure, which Paul was talking about. We've got a new replay machine, which is going to make things a lot better this season. And we're going to provide 4 camera coverage. At the moment, if you watch our highlights, you'll see it's just the same 1 camera coverage you see on the highlights programmes in the evenings. That's all very well and good, but we're getting ahead of the curve here, and we've actually been training up people this last season to work on a 4 camera coverage. John over there, who's behind that camera, and we're going to have our own commentators as well. We're not going to take BBC Radio Devon commentary. We're going to take our own commentators. We'll obviously know more about the club. So it's going to be more Argyle-centric rather than just a generic feed. So that's a long answer to a short question, but yes, iFollow is very, very important for Argyle.
Shout out to Rick for getting all that done. I'd also like to shout out to Gary Lovejoy, who's been a successful sports producer with various production companies around the world, doing the Admirals Cup, doing the Paralympics, and so on. What's entertaining about this is that Gary and I go back to 1966 when I first came to Plymouth. We watched the 66-7 Cup final at his house in a shop somewhere in Whitley, I think. I can't remember exactly where, but I always remember we used to go to Gary's house to watch the Cup final because his mum gave us buns and my mum wouldn't.
53 years later, he's still doing me favours.
Yeah, we are lucky to have him because he's a very, very talented man and a major Argyle fan, lives in St Dominic. I have got loads of more questions here if nobody's got any. Sorry?
Good evening, thank you. I've got a question here which actually relates to the PR side of things, so perhaps Rick, you can answer this as well. If you watch the local TV, listen to the local radio, and indeed read the local papers, it seems that there is not much Argyle related in there, especially on TV. Okay, you go to Portsmouth and you are absolutely inundated with Portsmouth this and Portsmouth that. We've got a huge area down here that we never ever hear about what's going on with the club, what they're doing out in the outreach, etc., etc. Can we get that better?
Well, I think the trouble is that if you look at this board and maybe some of the executives as well, we've really got faces for radio. I hadn't realised that was the issue. I don't watch TV. Funny enough, I did an interview with Gordon Sparks this morning for the radio. I don't know. Is there more we can do? Do you have any views on that, Rick? Sorry to number you twice in a row.
It's okay. I think it's a resource thing at the end of the day. I think, as you said, it's a big area, and certainly TV stations have got large areas to cover in terms of news and sport, and I think they don't have the sort of staff they used to carry, way back. What I would say, and I would say this, wouldn't I, is that I think the coverage that you get on the Argyle website and through the Argyle social media channels is far and above a lot of what League One and League Two is at, and it's better than some Championship clubs. So, and it's going to get better. So my thing would be to say, don't worry about what the TVs are or aren't doing. Just come to the pafc.co.uk and all the social channels, and you'll get everything you need to know there.
I think though it is part of a wider opportunity for the club, because as we've already described, it's not just about the football side, it's about the place in the community and the place in the city, and I think it's about raising the profile of the club within the city, and I think we've got quite a lot to go at in being able to do that. Over the last few months, I think we've endeavoured to make the right connections with people, and I think over the next couple of years, I think we will have that, I use the word again, opportunity to be able to do that, whether it's through ladies that we've talked about, the academy, the club, the football, of course, but it's obviously the hospitality and events venue, so it's the wide breadth of everything that we'll have, which I'll call assets, that we should be able to use for news stories, and it's about connecting the TV and the media and plugging those all into that, and not just about the game on Saturday, as important as that is. It's about everything, I think.
What is our relation with the media, especially things like kind of the stories what they ran last year? Did get people quite unhappy with what they did last year.
I think our relationship's okay. We've kind of worked on it. Look, there were obviously problems last year, specific problems, and frankly I had problems with them once or twice as well. There was an incident early in the season where I think they misreported something that our manager had said. There was an incident later in the year when they misreported something my wife had said. There was, various things. Look, we recognise that Plymouth Live have a job to do. I think that most of their reporters are kind of at least generally supportive of Argyle and do their best under very, very difficult circumstances. So, we work hard on keeping the relationships reasonable. They need us and we need them. And I think it's reasonable that we be civil to each other. And, I've done interviews in the last 10 days, with Chris Errington. I think Ryan has done, a lot with Chris Errington, I think, but certainly with the Herald Plymouth Live over the last few days. So we recognise that it should be a good relationship. But look, people are hungry for clicks. People are occasionally going to misreport. It's never going to be completely smooth. But I think so long as we know that the Herald and other media outlets are going to be either well disposed to us or at least accurate, I think we'll do our best to support them. And I think we do try pretty hard to support them. When I'm here, I do interviews. As I say, I've just been to do one with Sparksy. So we're generally supportive of the local media, and we'll certainly be very responsive to requests.
It's to bring the Plymouth Live up and show what really goes on behind the scenes, how the club runs.
Yeah, we bring them here once a month, don't we? Show them around the Grandstand.
They have been doing that recently, yes. As you say, any request will be dealt with. I mean, there's no negativity towards it at all. If they come and ask, we'll do what we can to help them out. Certainly. I have going away from media, a little bit more about. Somebody mentioned Forest Green Rovers earlier on, and a question about, can our club do more to contribute to environmental sustainability and cite Forest Green as a model for vegan food, solar panels, which you mentioned, I think, Andrew, and bamboo shirts? So generally, can we do more in sustainability?
Yes, I do think there's a lot more that we can do in many areas. We are doing a few things. So I mentioned about the solar panels, but we also are looking to be able to get some of the water from boreholes for the training pitches and be able to activate that within the next month. But more broadly than that, I think there's things around waste disposal, recycling, but also the amount of plastic that we do use. So, you know, you look on the concessions, etc. So we're actually now in the process of looking at where do we source those from so that they're not single-use plastic items, and that we're looking at how do we get people to have the ability to be able to recycle those again. It forms part of a broader thing which I think we need to identify, which is that we do have at Argyle an environmental policy. So over the course of the next year, we'll be pulling all of that together, starting with things that we can do which are low-hanging fruit, and then looking at actually having a sustainable policy in place too as well.
So I just think it's worth adding to that there's a virtuous circle here about saving money and saving energy. So you know, it's everybody's responsibility, but particularly at the club we can do things to save on water and save on electricity, and all those things are good. And on the vegan front, I think Ginsters have a tremendous Moroccan vegan pasta. just coincidentally.
Well, you've got the microphone, Paul. Actually,
I had one on Tuesday, and I can vouch for them.
We're all looking forward to the grandstand being opened, and there was a question from Rob Bowden that came in. Financially, how much is the new grandstand projected to add to our turnover?
Yep, that's a good question too. So with a full year, and obviously it would be being given the fact that we have probably about 30 or 40 days where we'll be playing football, and if we then obviously extend that as well with you know, the ladies, etc., may get up to towards 50, you know, under 23s, then we've still got 300 odd days a year where we can use the facilities. And if we activate that in the right way for conferences, events of all sorts, and all sorts of other activities, both in the morning, evening, weddings, parties, all sorts of things, we think that we can generate additional revenue of about £1.5 million, which will probably net down to just under £1 million. So going back to the very first slides that were presented by Paul, you can see what a huge opportunity that we have with the grandstand. So I would encourage anybody that's thinking about having any events from Christmas onwards to think about us and think about the club here, because it will absolutely go to the long-term viability of the club. So it's really, really important for us.
If I could just add, we should see the grandstand as not just an investment in trying to deliver events. It's a long-term investment for the club, and it enables an awful lot of things for us, which will be good for the long term. So it increases the capacity of the ground, and so you know, with the ability to get more people in is really important to us as well. It provides a bit of flexibility. So Andrew said about you know, the potential of looking at where away fans are sited, and therefore that might increase the ability to hold more home fans elsewhere. Also the hospitality experiences, the ability to offer a premium tier, which again brings more revenue into the club. So I think there's 3 or 4 areas that we should see the grandstand as a really positive long-term asset. So building £1.5 million is great, but also having more people coming through the door and a greater level of quality hospitality and all those things can only add again and again and again to this, and it's everybody's responsibility to try and think about how we use that asset for the good of the club.
And I'd just add, for the benefit of the community, you know, one of our values is community focus. Part of our vision is to be respected by everybody in the Southwest who doesn't support us. And you know, the grandstand properly executed and the facilities properly run are going to be a source of great pride, I hope, for the city of Plymouth and surroundings. It's the kind of asset that the city has lacked, and I think if Andrew and the team can deliver it, then it'll be a great thing for the community. The grandstand is a great thing, and as you know, as Paul says, and Andrew emphasises, it's partly about money, but it's not just about the money. So it really should be a great asset for Plymouth.
Whilst we're talking about the grandstand, can I just ask if there's any plans to sponsor or have a sponsor pay for this brand new facility? Paul?
I think he's asking me to sponsor it. I don't think anybody wants it to be called the Paul Berne stand. Is that what you're thinking?
Obviously, the grandstand, but and the stadium does present opportunities. But I think more broadly, we've got to make sure that any revenue that might be generated, and it's got to be done in the right way. So we recognise, obviously, that this is Home Park. So, any consideration that we would have to have would be about going back to thinking about that it, first and foremost, it's about a community asset and somebody that feels proud of. And yes, we get the balance right between what the commercial payoff is for that. But we won't sell our soul for that. We'll have, if we do have any sponsorship, it'd be the right brand, it'd be the right connection between the club, and it will fundamentally still be called Home Park. So.
Got a couple of questions from Nick Muir, who lives in Hampshire, and they're to do with being a sort of faraway fan, as it were. He's asking about the possibility of maybe taking a fans forum around the country and maybe doing it on a match day in some of the bigger cities that we or nearby to where we play.
Yeah, we do one in London, a kind of fans forum, the London supporters branch. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's always happy to hang out with a bunch of fans. I mean, I think about it. I mean, I don't think it should replace something like this.
No, I don't think
we would have to augment it.
Yes.
You know, when we commit ourselves, I think we've committed ourselves to 4 fan forums a year. Is this the second or third?
Yeah.
Second, third, something like that. We're trying to do 4 a year. We may only make 3, but I don't count the, evening at the London branch as one of those. So yeah, as an addition, I don't see why not. But actually, that's not a bad idea at all. I mean, people know me. I'm happy chuntering away for hours, and I go to away games. If people want to meet in a pub or something before an away game, I'm just couldn't be happier. I'll buy the beers.
We are recording
last time it cost me about oh god. I just remembered what it cost me at the bloody London branch.
Well, moving swiftly on then, Nick also makes the point that fans who live away from Home Park probably spend quite a bit of money in coming to Home Park and not even considering the away games. He's saying that their expenditure may be even more than our prime Pioneer package. And he's suggesting that there might be something we can do to recognise supporters who do put that sort of commitment into coming to home games.
Yeah, I wish it were free. I'd like to make it free for everybody, but it can't be.
I think he's more suggesting maybe a little something in the membership package.
Oh, I
don't
see.
have a Devon and Cornwall address.
Oh, I see.
Maybe just
that is a nice idea. Yeah.
For a pint when
even possible to.
I think we just have to. There's obviously lots of different fan groups, and we'd have to think about how that might actually work, practically. So I mean, it's the whole thing of many football fans, isn't it? It's the travel and everything else, more so here, of course. But I think we'd have to consider it in a wider realm because equally here, and as we've already mentioned, local derbies are 200 miles away. They're everywhere's a journey. So I think we'll have to think about it. Yeah.
Sure.
A couple of questions regarding the grandstand. The first one is, once it's completed, have you given any consideration to pitching for example, under 21 internationals? And the second question I've got is regarding accessibility. Again, once it's completed, will there be perhaps a drop-off point for people who have mobility issues or disabilities?
So the second one first. So in terms of drop-off points and accessibility, yes, we will have that. We're actually working on, going back to the sort of the land purchase as well. So we're looking at where that might well be. That may well be. So yes, there will be a drop-off point. And the first one regarding internationals, obviously there's a lot of requirements around having internationals, so size of changing rooms, it's all as an example, the media that you're able to do, the accommodation, etc. So we would have to look at the requirements and then see whether we can match all of those. And obviously, if we could, and then it would be an opportunity for us. But I think it's one step at a time to then look at how do we do that. But I think for broadening the game, and the other one, that we could look at some point was ladies as well. And so I think the facility may well offer us that opportunity, but we need to exactly establish what's required in order to be able to do that.
Okay, question sent in from somebody called Ben Green, very appropriately. It's addressed to Simon. I'd like to thank you for bringing back positivity to the club. Despite our relegation, I feel there's a huge buzz around the club at the moment, and our future can only be a good one. Secondly, you mentioned ways of getting more fans through the gate. What would it take to partnership with Tickets for Troops to offer military personnel access to games?
First of all, slightly tangentially, thanks Ben for the thanks, but it's not just me. I think the whole club has really come together since just before that Scunthorpe game. Staff, the work that Rick's done, the work that Andy's done, the work that everybody's done around the club, and the supporters. It really has been fantastic to see how morale has improved despite getting relegated. I mean, really extraordinary that the mood could be so good despite relegation. But I think everybody's done their bit. It really isn't just me. And we've now got we've now got a manager who seems to join in the fun, and has obviously accelerated that lift in morale. So it's a wonderful thing. But not just me. It's down to you as well. As to Tickets for Troops, I don't know Tickets for Troops as an organisation personally, but just as a general principle, this club is very closely associated with Plymouth for obvious reasons. We're very proud of our naval heritage and our military heritage more generally. We're very proud of the way we execute our Armed Services Day, which we do and will continue to do every year. We do a lot of work with the military community in Plymouth, over and above just tickets. So we're working away in the background on a part of the local community that we value particularly highly. We give discounts on season tickets, but I don't think we're going to go down the road of giving discounts on individual tickets. We'll do work elsewhere. One of the troubles is that we are very proud of our Plymouth's naval history in particular. I'm not embarrassed to say, but military history more generally. But and I'm American. We're famous for valuing our servicemen and women. But once you start, giving, once you start favouring one group, where do you end? What about firemen? What about not doctors? What about teachers? And we'd love to do something for everybody, but we prefer to work much more in the background and get stuff done with the military than come out with short-term giveaways. And we do a lot, and I think it's appreciated.
I've got one more question that's been handed in, so it's probably last chance if anybody in the room wants to take Simon or Paul or Andrew to task for something. There we go.
Just a small one, gents. You talk about heat, light and power on the budget. Last night I happened to go on the webcam 1 at about 11:30, and every light was on. And I've noticed over the last few months the vomitory lights are on. Is there a reason for that or missing, or is it just on a different circuit? It seems a waste of energy to me, that's all.
There must be alternative programmes you can watch. Ian.
I could always play you at golf, Andrew.
Joking aside, I wasn't aware of that, and actually we'll look into that because that's a great example of where we're wasting power and we shouldn't be. So thank you for bringing it to our attention.
You know, I think we may have been testing the lights. I saw some mention in Trevor's reports. Let's look into it and get back to you.
Any more for any more?
Just one more question. What's your expectations for the end of the season?
Expectations is a strong word. I hope we get promoted. You know, of course I do. I expect. I think we've got an above average budget. We've got an above average manager, so we should have above average squared, whatever the phrase is. You know, I hope we get promoted. You know, I said last week at PAXA, and somebody was critical. You know, they said, "What are your hopes? What are your expectations?" And I said, I expect us to be in the playoffs. But I mean, that means I expect us to be in the top 6. I expect us to be in the top 6. I'll say it. You know, beyond that, it's very hard to be precise because so much is luck. Even over a 46-game season, a lot of the outcomes can be lucks. Can be down to luck. So you know, you do your best. I think we've got great staff. We've got a great backroom staff. We've got a great on the pitch staff. They tell me the team's looking promising. What would I know? So yeah, I expect us to get promoted. But you know, so what if I do? What do I know? What does everybody else expect? Actually, John, Lloyd, what was the expectations in the survey? Can you remember?
75% outright promotion, 37% in the playoffs.
See, 75% out. You can expect to be in the top 6. You can't really expect to be in the top 2. You know, look at what happened to Sunderland.
Top 7, I think it is.
Oh, sorry, top 7. Yeah, of course. No, I expect top 6. I'm that precise. Yeah, it's a very fine line. I speak Spanish, and in Spanish, the word for hope and expect are exactly the same.
One question I got.
Sorry, and they're also the same. It's hope, expect, and waiting for. Exactly the same.
We've got one more question sent in from somebody who couldn't be here, Ryan Elderbrand, who says, as a loyal Argyle supporter and general football fan, it's quite worrying to see clubs such as Bury and Bolton suffering serious financial difficulties. What assurances can you give me that Argyle won't suffer the same fate?
So, I think, hopefully, the first 20 minutes of this meeting gave you some confidence in that. And I've got to say, and again, please don't try and misread this, but I would prefer that Simon wasn't pumping money into the club. I think that we've all got a responsibility to be part of the community that owns this community asset. And I really strongly believe that. That is genuinely why I'm sat here. I want to come and watch a football club that I feel part of every Saturday. And my responsibility, the thing that I want to do for the club here, is to help put it on that footing. So, as grateful as I am for Simon for putting money in, I hope he doesn't have to do it for very long.
So does Simon.
So does Simon.
Okay, any more questions from the floor? Gentlemen, I think you've done it. Oh, one here, one last one then. Let's have one.
When the grandstand's built and all done, would it be maintained? Like, you know, when we had the grandstand before, it wasn't really maintained. Will this one be maintained?
It had better be.
Yes, it will. I think, though, too, as well, and I think it was touched on earlier, we've got to look at the rest of the stadium too. I think we've got to identify the areas over a period of time where that investment needs to be focused as well, because the grandstand is really important, but of course it's only one part of the whole stadium. So I think we've got to make sure that all of those areas are maintained and that we have a real focus on the whole as well. But yes is the answer.
So we're going to still get a leaky roof next
the trouble is we mend one leaky bit of the roof and another part starts leaking. This is part of a more general problem, and again, this is absolutely not being critical of anybody at the club over the last 15, 20 years. But there's been so much emphasis on current income. We've struggled with expenses. We've struggled with generating revenue. That there hasn't been much money left over for those kind of normal maintenance. And as a result, we're starting to pay for it now. And a lot of the money that we've put in, that we've raised over the last few years, has gone on maintenance. One of the things about sustainability should be that you are, in technical terms, you're actually reserving for your depreciation charge, so that when the roof leaks, you've got the money to fix it. So I hope that sustainability includes maintaining things, because maintaining things not only increases the fan experience consistent with our fan focus value, but also means that eventually you save money. But every year it's money that could have gone on the first team. So when we're spending money on a new lick of paint, I don't want to hear people yelling that could have gone in the first team. We don't. We're happy with a dirty wall. It's all about making the asset be productive for us for as long as possible. But these are financial decisions, that have been difficult to make at the club, and they're a little bit easier now. But they're never going to be easy. At a football club, there's always something you can spend every single penny on. Every single penny. You look at what some teams have spent on their first team over the last few years with little success. So money comes in, money goes out, but there's always somewhere else you can spend.
I've seen that John Back has said that there have been occasions where groups of fans, or at least groups of people, have had the opportunity to visit, come and have a look at the things that are going on. Maybe there are safety issues and that, but is it possible that at some point groups of fans may be given the opportunity to do that?
Excuse me. There will be opportunities, definitely, but as you probably will realise, obviously, as we're going through this construction process, it's a really tight timeline. We want to get the stand open as soon as we possibly can. It's still on course to open last quarter. We're certainly, on course to do that. But within that sort of 3 months, there's an awful lot to do. So anything that we can do to allow people to see it, of course we will. But also we want to make sure that we've got safety to think about and people being able to access and egress easily. But also that, more importantly as well, that the construction workers can get on with the work. So when we've got into that position, then we'll be allowing people to come and have a look, but it's not quite at that moment. There might have been the odd ones that have seen that, but generally we're not in a position to be able to do that at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Things you can go and see, though, include training sessions. I think we're putting on a public training session with games and all kinds of fun activities on
Thursday.
Next Thursday?
This Thursday coming out.
Yeah, next Thursday.
25th. 10 o'clock.
Is that this Thursday or next
3.
Thursday? I think it's different in America.
Thursday 25th.
I'm confused. But also, look, Ryan's made it clear, if you want to wander along to Harper's Park and watch training, you're very welcome. The gate's open. I've been there myself. It's fun.
I think he might prefer it earlier in the week rather than later, though.
Correct. Yeah, you should check. Yeah, that's a good point. I think he said Thursdays and Fridays, probably not. But, Mondays, Tuesdays, light training. Happy to have people come along.
Simon, do you want to wrap up? I mean that in the nicest possible way.
You had to be track on that one.
He's old school, Cowdery. I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. I'd like to thank Paul in particular for doing the big reveal. As I say, please send in questions. Our objectives here are transparency and almost all areas. The club's committed to it, the board's committed to it, you know, everybody here is committed to it. We realised that we weren't satisfied everybody today. We realised that we probably won't satisfy everybody anytime, but we're committed to satisfying as many of you as possible. So I thank you for your support, not just tonight, but you know, throughout the years. Looking forward to the season. As you say, morale's high. I think, you know, I expect us to get promoted. I hope we're going to get promoted, but I think we're going to have a hell of a lot of fun. And you know, I think Argyle are going to be it's going to be a good place over the next couple of years, and let's hope it's a good place next year in League One.
Thanks, everybody.